Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the 23rd Annual International Mars Society Convention. So, today I am here to present my research work on advanced power generation system for colonization of Mars. See, if you read the title, there are few keywords in there like power generation, carbon dioxide and Mars. So, potentially we have worked on utilizing supercritical Brayton cycle to generate power on Mars. This research work is conducted by my mentor, Mr. Ramesh Kumar, and me. So let's see what we have did so far. So we have always heard that we are going to make Mars suitable for humans. So why exactly Mars and not any other planet? See, Mars is most likely Earth in many ways. The only difference is the atmosphere is very thin. See, Mars soil have some water content in it, making it possible to have a life form over there. In our solar system, Mars is placed in such a way that it's not that close to Sun, neither far away. So that means it's not so cold and not so hot. So it is perfect habitable zone. Life can exist there. Next thing you can see the comparison of sizes of Earth and Mars over here. So we see that Mars is smaller in size as compared to Earth, and that is why Mars has about 38% of gravity that on Earth. But our human bodies are able to sustain that gravity, adapt to that, and possibly mutate according to it. So we can say that humans that will live on Mars will be humans that will live on Mars will be moreover the day and night cycle is slightly more than 24 hours. Now let's see for colonization. Not only on Mars, on any other planet or in colonization as general that we will need. Ask yourself what are things you need daily to continue your life. You need basic utilities, you need food, you need communication. Mars is an interplanetary colonization, so you need an interplanetary transport. You need a transport on Mars like rovers or something else. The problem that comes here is all of this requires power. If we want to colonize Mars so that it can back up all of our needs for colonization of Mars, for power generation on Mars, you can see we are proposing supercritical Brayton cycle that will be operating on supercritical carbon dioxide as operating liquid. Now, why supercritical Brayton cycle and not any other normal cycle like Rankine cycle or air Brayton cycle? See, the thing is, the sizes of these cycle has been very huge. Very huge. Rankine cycle mean this is gonna use a critical pattern cycle, and both of them are designed for same amount of energy that will be generated. So you see, for 300 megawatts of power, you need about 20 meters span of a steam turbine, whereas same power requires just 1 meter span of supercritical carbon dioxide. Moreover, the efficiency of supercritical carbon dioxide here you can see surpasses 40% efficiency. That is the highest achievable efficiency of any thermodynamical cycle till now. Moreover, the system gets compact because density of supercritical liquids are higher than that of gases. So it makes So it must have a machinery compact. Now let's see why we are going to adapt supercritical Brayton cycle on Mars. The key here for operating atmosphere is consisting about 95% of carbon dioxide. You can see here we have carbon dioxide as our operating liquid. Any other gas with us. We can just inhale the atmospheric carbon dioxide from Mars, compress it to its supercritical form using a compressor, and after that we can use it for expansion in turbine by in between we can apply some heat using different methods. In our study, we took nuclear reactor for heat exchanger applications. So the only problem with Martian atmosphere is it is very, very thinner as compared to Earth's atmosphere. So on a normal day, the pressure on Earth is 1 bar and that on Mars is 0.06 bars. So you see there is a huge, huge difference between the pressures. So what are our objectives? So far, I think I am clear that we are going to make a power generation cycle on Mars to make it habitable. We are going to use atmospheric carbon dioxide and we are applying the principle of supercritical Brayton cycle attached to a nuclear fusion reactor which will provide enough heat. Now, in simple terms, we can say that we are going to design a power plant in accordance with Martian atmosphere. So, what is the concept behind the idea? What is the concept behind supercritical Brayton cycle? See, the basic concept is to do a in situ power generation. Like you must have heard these days that SpaceX is planning to generate methane on Mars from carbon dioxide. That type of generation is called in situ generation. That means you are using the resources of that planet itself without carrying any extra need from here. So we are conceptualizing that we will use atmospheric CO2 on Mars for our operation. See, this is temperature versus specific entropy gas of supercritical carbon dioxide Brayton cycle, and this below is vapor dome of supercritical carbon dioxide. So you see that carbon dioxide critical pressure is about 7.7 megapascal. That's very less as compared to other liquids and gases. As compared to other fluids that we have, the supercritical pressure and temperature of carbon dioxide is very, very less. So what we plan to do, we plan to inhale atmospheric carbon dioxide from our compressor. Then we plan to compress it to about 7.7 megapascals. And after that, we plan to add heat from our nuclear heat fusion reactor. And after that, we plan to expand it slowly on our turbine. And there will be a shaft that will be rotating and that will be connected to our generator. And in that way, our generator will finally convert the mechanical energy to electrical energy. The heat energy of reactor is converted to mechanical energy by the turbine, and finally the mechanical energy of turbine is converted to electrical energy with the help of a generator. So it sounds easy, right? But what are the challenges that we are going to face? See, the first challenge is it's an interplanetary task, so we need to install all this system on Mars. Second, we need a nuclear reactor small and capable enough that it could be transported to Mars without any hazards, of course. The next and the biggest problem is this one. We have to increase atmospheric carbon dioxide pressure from 6 millibars to 7.7 megapascals. Now, how are we going to do that? For initiating our calculation process, we have to idealize something, we have to assume some things. So what we do we have assumed here? We have assumed that we are capable of transporting large bulks of machinery that will be required for this task to Mars. Then we have idealized that we have successfully made a miniature nuclear reactor, and we are able to manufacture compressors of high enough compression ratios to pressurize carbon dioxide to its critical pressure. Now let's see what supercritical carbon dioxide actually is. So any known element have three phases: solid, liquid, and gas. This is the curve of pressure and temperature. Above this, the element is in its solid phase. Between these, the element is in liquid phase, and below this, the element is in gaseous phase. This is the triple point of any element on at which its vapor, liquid, and solid forms coexist together. Now, what is a supercritical phase of any element? When the temperature and pressure exceeds the amount of critical temperature and critical pressure. What's critical temperature? Critical temperature is temperature after which no matter how high pressure you apply, the phase of that element won't change. It won't liquefy anymore. So supercritical zone is a mixture of gaseous phase and liquid phase. It has properties of both gases as well as liquids. So you see here that carbon dioxide reaches supercritical form very quickly. Right? We have to input a very little work as compared to other fluids to make it reach its supercritical phase. So at supercritical phase, carbon dioxide have two following properties. It has low viscosity like a gas, high diffusibility like a gas, no surface tension like a gas, high density like a liquid, no surface tension like a gas, high density like a liquid. You see, so these are properties of both gases and liquids at its supercritical phase. That means our material is our work in vapor phase as well as liquid phase having high densities and high solvent powers and almost no surface tension. So that means we have to apply a very little work. That means our turbo machinery will get compact and compact in size. So let's understand the cycle, the Brayton cycle. You can see this is a ideal Brayton cycle because it's written isentropic over here. If it would be real, this process would be adiabatic. So see, it's simple. We take input from our compressor, we compress it, then the compressed fluid is supplied to combustion chamber where we give it heat. The heat source can be anything. It can be a nuclear reactor, it can be what can you say, solar burning coal, anything, burning fossil fuel. And then this heated up gaseous mixture is applied to turbine where it expands. And when it expands, it rotates the turbine, and that work is our work output. The catch here is turbine and compressor are connected with same shaft. So some amount of heat is going to be used for operation of compressor. So you see hmm, efficiency of any thermodynamical cycle you see we have is that work output minus work input upon Q in. So as little the work consumed by compressor, higher will be the efficiency. And there must be a certain temperature gap at points 3 and point 4. And why so? Because second law of thermodynamics tells us that the efficiency of any cycle is directly related to its temperature gap between the source and sink. Here is a pressure ratio versus efficiency graph. You can see efficiency rises with pressure ratio. Pressure ratio is nothing but ratios of pressure over zero point 0.2 and zero point 0.1, that is after compressor and before compressor. It's a compressor property. You see it increases and after some point it becomes constant. So that is trend of efficiency with pressure ratio. Now, if you are using more than one compressor, you usually apply intercooler. Intercooler is nothing but a heat exchanger. So see what happens in real cases when your gas is entering compressor, the compressor compresses it. So when it compresses it, the density and temperature both are rising. So if you supply this high temperature gas directly to combustion chamber, it won't absorb that amount of heat that it could have absorbed when it was cool. So we are wasting a lot of heat in heat exchanger when we are supplying the hot gas directly to it. So we apply a intercooler here. So what does this intercooler do? It cool down the exhaust of every compressor in order to keep the heat absorbing capacities high. It the main motive behind this is increasing the volumetric efficiency and saving down power. Now see what we are going to use. We are going to use Brayton cycle with recompression and recooling. So what is recompression over here? We have already explained what is recooling. So what is recompression? See, in recompression, what we have, we know the ambient pressure of mass is 0.61 kilopascals, and what we do in recompression cycle is that the turbine won't expand the gas to the ambient pressure. It will expand them to a point higher than ambient pressure, and that exhaust will be fed into another compressor. What this will do, this will reduce the compressor work, and as discussed earlier, reduction in compressor work is increasing efficiency. So this is a whole layout of our plant. Now let's see, these are the initial conditions that we took for calculations. You can see we have four compressors and four turbines having different pressure ratios and expansion ratios. So the values over here, Cp, gamma, R, and ambient temperature is taken from NASA fact sheet. So after putting these initial values and doing state point calculations, what we have, we are taking a heat rise of 250 Kelvin after heat exchanger. That means our heat exchanger have raised the temperature of inlet gas by 250 degrees. Now there is a catch here, we can't go above 118 Kelvin, and that's because of the materialistic barriers that we have. So you see, as I was talking about the recompression cycle before, here the pressure input is 0.61 bar from compressor 1, that's the ambient pressure of Mars. But turbine 4 expanded 3.91 kilopascal. That's not the ambient pressure, that's very higher as compared to ambient pressure of Mars. But when this will be fed in again to a compressor, the amount of work done by compressor is reduced, and that reduction will give us a slightly higher efficiency. Now see what are the results after taking these straight points and initial values. So you can see total work done in compressor is in negative. That's because system is providing work. We are providing it work, and you can see the work done is expansion means the work done by turbine is positive, and that's because turbine is actually working device. It is driving the compressor as well as the generator. You see, if we apply a heat of 17 kilowatts, we have efficiency of about 54%, and that is very very high as compared to any other thermodynamical cycle. So Here is the temperature versus entropy graph. You can see that we have taken it from 0.61, then we have added heat, then we have done expansion, and then from next cycle, what we can do, we can apply another compressor and just put it back here. And this will be our new cycle this small. The efficiency will be same with the efficiency will be higher because of less compressor work. This is the pressure versus volume graph of an open cycle. So you can see that pressure is increasing from 0.61 megapascal to 7.7 bars, and then finally it is decreasing. And as I said that we are using decompression, so the pressure is not decreasing further. A second compressor will be applied after this that will increase the pressure again, and again heat will be added, and again the cycle will continue. This will increase the efficiency. Now, what are the conclusions? Conclusions here are that supercritical Brayton cycle is only limited by its technology, present time technology for transportation and making a small suitable nuclear reactor. Once done, it could be the best way to supply power to Martian households or atmosphere or camps or whatever it is. And here are the future works that we are going to intend. We are going to study different configuration of Brayton cycles, and after that, we are planning to develop a miniature supercritical Brayton cycle at our university for experimental studies. Here are the references. Thank you very much, guys.